Hi there. Welcome to week 12, chapter 10, Resisting Violence Against Women. You may be looking at this going, her hair is longer. Well, this one was recorded January 2014, and all the other ones were recorded fall of 2013. It's kind of a difficult chapter. Most of this, unlike some of the other videos, you're going to just see the PowerPoints rather than seeing me. I'll be back as an insert on the video in the next week. This week is just kind of a hard week on talking about resisting violence against women. Overall, what we see, the United Nations estimates that 1 in 3 women will be victims of physical, emotional, psychological violence, sexual violence at some point in their lifetime. In the United States alone, the estimates are that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 8 boys are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. This, of course, does not include physical or emotional abuse. These numbers get horrifically high in examples such as another statistic that mentally handicapped girls have an 80 to 85% chance of being sexually molested before the age of 18, and mentally handicapped boys a 50% chance. It is incredibly ubiquitous. In parts of the world, your very chances of being born may depend on your gender. Selective abortion means that there are an estimated, as you see here, 163 million girls worldwide, and it's almost always girls that are aborted. Estimates of 8 million in the last decade in India, 32 million in the last 20 years in China. We have examples from Korea, from Eastern Europe. It is boys are valued, girls are a burden. Therefore, we eliminate the girls and everybody theoretically is happy. Not, right? So the book emphasizes power differences in violence, but it also shows other consequences of patriarchy where girls and women are devalued and seen as a burden, as I just said. The numbers are just startling, stark, frightening, right? This is both a simple and a complex problem. It's simple because it's wrong, period. It's complex because of the many factors and circumstances that affect it: history, gender norms, war, globalization, power gains by women, backlash to those power gains, media portrayals of violence in video games, movies, pornography, even advertising. Rape, child sexual abuse, labeled incest in our book, but of course not always by family members, and domestic abuse are the most common forms worldwide, with some really devastating examples recently in India, and the 3 examples of rape and war in the article, all of which reveal patterns but only barely touch the surface of the horrifying ubiquitousness, commonness of violence. We hear of trafficking, but Mimi Schwartz's article, The Lost Girls, gives a rare sense of this in every detail. The estimated 100,000 people, mostly women, that are trafficked per year as I speak. Las Vegas is a world destination for trafficking, and we see changes in the ways that the police are seeing those who are trafficked, going from seeing them as prostitutes who are acting of their own volition to themselves being victims. This ties to the article also Confronting Violence by Manu and Bacot, which tries to give a global view of violence. What are some of the commonalities that we see here? We see blaming the victim for her own rape, the shame of being a victim at all, misogyny, that is hatred of women. As I think I probably noted earlier, this interesting fact that we have the term misogyny, meaning hatred of women, which is hundreds of years old in English, and only in the last 30 or 40 years has someone coined the term to mean hatred of men. But here we're talking about the power and threat of the feminine, and how it is controlled through things like female genital mutilation, dowry murders, selective abortion of girl fetuses, accusations of witchcraft, which are by and large towards girls. As radical feminists thought about transforming the world by rethinking work, childcare, marriage, etc., those combating violence see reconfiguring masculinity and combating patriarchy by thinking differently about boys and men and how we raise boys to make violence unthinkable. Even recognizing what counts as violence and that violence exists is a problem. For instance, rape in marriage has only been legally recognized even in the United States since the 1960s. Think what that means. It means that women 100% have to say yes 24/7, 365 for their entire marriage, and they have no right to say no. That's the United States. The concept of rape in marriage is still non-existent in any number of countries. Sexual violence being recognized as a weapon of war only dates from the 1990s on a global basis, though of course it's existed for millennia. The Rape and War article describes some of the current variations and how easily advances can be reversed. Making violence visible, demystifying the reality, not blaming the victim, can make a difference. We see an increase in the estimates of the number of rapes that are reported in the United States from being 1 in 10 to now being about 1 in 3 that are reported. Violence stems from othering people in many ways, and hierarchies intersect here. Prejudice against one group tends to extend to many. Conversely, inclusion for one group tends to extend to more. Just as very few people are only anti-gay, or only anti-Jewish, or only anti-Hispanic. The article about violence against women of color utilizes both and logic to address individual and structural issues, local, state, national, and international issues. The article, Beyond the Politics of Inclusion, makes some sweeping assumptions that are not supported in the article, so I tried to pull the logically connected pieces of that to bring in here. A number of the articles talk about rape culture, a culture of violence that takes many forms in many countries. Deborah Ann Davis's disturbing article, Betrayed by an Angel, talks about how women are raised to be kind, gentle, respectful, and non-offensive, and how this in some ways sets us up to be victims. An example on this, I took a self-defense class through the UNLV Police Department, I think last spring, and found the level of aggressiveness really disconcerting. And this is in a self-defense class. Actually yelling and hitting a police officer, even though he was dressed in protective gear, was more than some of the people in the class could even stand to watch. I mean, they left at the end of the class when we got a chance to practice this, and I found it very difficult to do the levels of aggressiveness that they were trying to teach us. And this within the situation of a simulated attack. It's sobering, to say the least. Lastly, here I want to talk about the textual harassment article, about the new ways we have of stalking and control. It becomes an insidious sort of control method, largely invisible to people outside of it. The warning signs are the same as by phone or in person, but it's difficult necessarily to see where concern becomes control, when control becomes violence. This goes hand in hand with the sexting article in the previous chapter, where girls especially are pressured to send sexy pictures as another step of asking or demanding sexual favors. Of course, once out there, they can be shared, used for blackmail, used to ruin one's reputation. We've seen the news articles of pretty horrific repercussions, as the texting article demonstrates. There seems to be an almost unlimited number of ways that people can hurt each other. I see societal condoning of enacting power as one major piece. A second one is seeing others as less than or othered, and learning what it takes to even see acts as violence as the third step in recognition. Fixing means altering thought, the way we raise children, even the forms of advertisement and media. There are many pieces to this, as you've seen throughout the semester. It is, again, one of those fairly complicated pieces on it. But unless we really look at it and think about it and think about what it means in our own individual lives, nothing is going to change. Okay, see you back in my fall 2013, guys, next week.